I feel like I'm quite loud. Okay, so I'm sure no one over here knows who this is. You've all come to see me. So this is Richa Chadha. We've been like friends since we were in middle school or something. But Richa has been acting in the film industry now for what has it been, like 20 years? Close to that.
20 years.
When was
We were
Carl?
in school. What?
Okay, no, 20 is a little bit much. Sorry, we were still in school. We were still in college.
No, but
Okay,
yeah,
when did you start?
2008 was my first film.
2008, not 20 years. But it's been great to kind of see the films that Richa has worked on. It's I've seen all of them. But just because, so I work on popular Hindi cinema, and just kind of noticing the changes that are happening in what is considered popular is very exciting. And I think actors like Richa are at the center of it. So we're also very proud. And she's gonna laugh at everything I say. Just don't mind. We've literally known each other since we were 15. And I don't think a whole lot has changed, at least in the way that we interact. So don't I hope you're not, I hope you don't mind. Um
13.
oh my God, okay. um okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about what's coming up next? This is gonna be really long.
No, no, no. We have a time limit, fortunately. But
Why don't you tell us about the film that you're working on right now? As a producer.
oh yeah, we just started producing and we just made a submission of the first film that we produced to Cannes for this year. Uh, we haven't heard back yet, but we submitted it. We sent it. We sent the envelope. That's it. But we are looking to produce more and more because I feel as actors it gives you greater agency. It's like you have more creative control over what you want to put out, how it's released, how it's marketed when you're producing.
Great, great. And anything about the film, what it's about?
It's a script by Shuchi Talati, who is another classmate of mine from my postgrad in Bombay. And it's the coming of age story of a 16-year-old girl between class 11 and 12. But her mother's really young too. Like her mother's maybe in her late 30s. And it's situated in the second half of the 90s, like in the late 90s, when all these films like Rangila was starting to happen, when there was Levi's jeans in India for the first time, when there was McDonald's. So it's that slight tussle between a mother and a daughter, whereas the mom does feel a certain degree of envy that the daughter has more options than she did. Uh, but it's all communicated through looks and silences. It's in a very complicated human drama space, but quite a nice film.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it, even though you don't always believe me when I say these things. But so I, some of the questions that I thought we could start with are things that I actually really did want to know, and we just never get down to talking about them. But can you tell us a little bit about um, how your team has changed, if at all, with social media? Like, have you hired people specifically for, or do you give like specific instructions to somebody? Hmm.
No, I don't have anyone right now, but when I have a release, sometimes I hire a team because they have like captions, poster, teaser, trailer to be posted at 6 p.m. by the entire cast. So yeah, for those times I hired people, but now no.
Is there any pressure from like producers or managers or something to
There's
keep
pressure.
posting?
No, I don't think there's pressure to keep posting in that sense. There's pressure to keep, I mean, there's this silly pressure of like everyone has to
Be
do the
visible.
same dance trends. So that
I-
kind of stuff is there.
Is Do your managers actually hope that you won't post because of the things that you post? They're controversial to say the least.
No, not on Instagram.
No, but what about like Twitter and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, so I think it's an important question just because um it's that space is so strange. Like there are all of these people who on the same post are going to be Richa, ma'am, how wonderful that you're saying this. I agree. And then there's this like barrage of, all this hate.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
How do you deal with the hate?
Yeah, do you engage?
I used to, I guess. Uh, ये धरा है क्या? धरा, उसको इधर भेज दो. Disruptor of the year. No, I, I, I think it. Once you realize that a lot of it is manufactured and sort of like IT cell work for anyone, it tends to not bother you so much because then you can actually almost tell a troll or a bot account because they have like a vague name, a weird DP, asterisk 56789,
Yeah.
and then it says previous account blocked, follow new account. I'm also on coup. So I really can't take that very seriously. No, but the it helps to know sometimes if there's an orchestrated attack of some kind. That at that time it helps to know like actual data for it, which I think people here are studying actually.
You
Right? Yeah.
Can you tell us about any such incident that might have happened?
Uh, I mean, obviously, I
Hypothetically.
don't have the means. I don't have the wherewithal to actually check this kind of activity, but I remember Joyaji had only like a few months ago. There was some storm over a fever too. At that time, that it really did help for me to look at how, like, what kind of influencers, cause this activity to happen, and we got kind of renewed, and yeah, that time was pretty helpful.
Right.
But if you're saying, did I cry to sleep? No.
I know you did. uh, but like I wonder with you and with Swara Bhaskar that there's like your personal lives and your political views are obviously entwined. And if you feel any like sense of like fear that something might kind of move over from this virtual space to
Well,
actual.
the thing is, we like to believe that the virtual space is only a virtual space and it's not real. But there are very real consequences. Um, but no, I'm really not afraid about anything per se. But also, I feel like two people, even if they have similar stances in general, don't necessarily communicate in the same way.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you're like you and Swara communicate in the same way. I'm just saying that
I'm not saying you're saying that.
how long has it been so far? Can we go yet? No, but like with Swara, it's like I know that at some point like her parents wanted her to get like security and stuff. Um, so it's like I know that it got very, very serious.
Yeah, well, she really does get a lot of threats. Yeah.
Do you think chalo, let's not be super political all the whole time. Also because you keep laughing. So tell me like how different do you think things would be in your career or where you reach like without social media?
Actually, when I did gangs of Wasipur and in the initial period of time, this Instagram stuff was one really harmless, sweet photo sharing app where people were posting 3 photos a day. This is what I ate. This is where I went. And then before you knew it, all these new features came. And of course, Twitter was what it was until very, very recently. Uh,
Didn't I make your first like um page on Facebook or something?
I think, did you make it the Richa Chadha?
I don't remember, but it was around gangs
Yeah.
around that time.
Yeah, 2010, 11, when I
Facebook.
had a fracture, remember?
One of seven.
Yes. One of, yeah, okay.
Um,
I think people are bored.
maybe you can entertain them. That's your job. uh, it might actually, we could take questions from people. It's an AMA, ask her anything, AHA. And I'll like, if I can think of something in the middle, I'll
Yeah.
jump in. Go ahead.
So being politically vocal on social media, on Twitter, etc. Obviously, we know you get hate online. It's almost matter of fact at this point. How has it affected your work and your relationships in the Bollywood fraternity, being vocal online? Is that something in the industry that is not done or looked down on? And are you in some way outcasted because of it, or is it totally cool?
I don't think, at least, pre-COVID, I don't think anyone took it seriously even. Like what you, a lot of people had a very different online persona versus when they met you in person, they weren't so awful. But sometimes, so then it's not a big deal actually. And really not that, like they're like not going to talk to you at a party because of your tweets. Chances are people are not checking what you're doing so much. It's only when something is either deliberately blown out of proportion or कोई court case हो गया, something where there is like where I mean, like think of it as a news piece where where something about your life is appearing in the main paper, then it's a big deal. Even if it's a smaller piece on a main paper, as opposed to in the entertainment segment where you can say, I was depressed after my film flopped or whatever, and then it goes on and on. So like that's how it gets serious when you're in the main paper. That's how I mean, in my head, I'm always looking at it as where will this go? So it helps to be very objective about it. Uh, See, I wouldn't know if it's happening behind closed doors. I wouldn't know, but not really. I have to say, yeah. Yes, Kaneez, that's incredible.
A very good question. Okay. I don't say I'm saying to myself. Do you like being on social media?
I like being on social
If you had a
media.
choice, would you not be on it?
I mean, I'll be on it, but
Okay,
if I really had a choice, I wouldn't agree to all the terms and conditions so blindly.
right. And
In the middle, I went through the stage where I was like, email me the privacy agreement. I'm going to read your 101 pages when I have time.
yeah,
But that never happened.
correct.
If I had a choice, I wouldn't agree to everything so easily.
Okay.
But yeah, but I actually post very infrequently.
Like, do you enjoy, like, if you had a choice of, if you didn't feel the pressures of who you were or the algorithm or, your fans or followers, what kind of content would you make if you felt completely free?
I am completely free, but like it takes time to produce stuff, even if it's cringe content.
Yeah, right.
I love producing cringe
Nice. Okay.
No, you.
Nice.
on my social media,
Yeah.
not in my stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it says something about our culture. I always think of a time where there was Baba Sehgal and Gold Spot. So that kind of stuff I probably do more of.
Yeah, I can
But
see
I
that.
keep doing like experimental things off and on that do not go well with the algorithm.
Correct. But that's why I asked, like, if you
Yeah.
had, that's okay, great. I just wanted to know that about you. Thank you.
If we start a dance trend like we planned last
We
night,
should
it
do
might
that.
go
A,
viral.
a cringe dance trend.
Yeah, I think we have a great backdrop because we are in America.
Yes. And then we should get everyone tomorrow night at the last, like at the last closing dinner. We should all do it together. Oh,
Like a
thank
flash
you.
mob.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Okay, thank you very much, Richa Chadha.
Hi, my name is Rakesh. So, is it okay if I ask the question in Hindi?
Yes.
हाँ, तो मैं मूवीज देखना पसंद करता हूँ. तो आपकी गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर देखी और तो उसमें आपके लिए कितना डिफिकल्ट था वो जो कैरेक्टर है उसको पकड़ पाना, क्योंकि मतलब ये मे बी क्लीशे क्वेश्चन हो सकता है आपके लिए, बट द इंटेंसिटी दैट विद विच यू हैव, मतलब जिस इंटेंसिटी से आपने वो कैरेक्टर निभाया और जो कन्वे कर पाए, है ना, एटलीस्ट फॉर मी इट्स लाइक game change. That movie is entirely game changing, and the character that you played as a Sabnam Khatun, that was like what, and that first part and second part, it was all for entire those two movies. So like how difficult and what goes into the background, like when you मतलब जब आपको ये नरेट किया होगा और आपने ये कैसे कॉन्सेप्ट मतलब सोचा कि ऐसे पोर्ट्रेट करना है या ये लाइन पकड़नी है.
तो आई थिंक तो प्रोसेस सेम ही रहता है. नहीं, वो कुछ कर रहे हैं. प्रोसेस सेम ही रहता है. आपको जो भी किरदार मिलता है आपको, आप उसके बारे में थोड़ी सी रिसर्च करेंगे, अपने दिमाग में उस किरदार के लिए ग्राफ बनाएंगे, इसका बचपन कैसा था, ये इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल में पढ़ा कि हिंदी मीडियम स्कूल में पढ़ा, पढ़ाई कि नहीं पढ़ा, माँ बाप कैसे थे, क्या खाना पसंद करते हैं, किस उम्र में शादी हुई, पर्सनल मोरालिटी क्या है, किस तरह की बॉडी लैंग्वेज है. तो उस टाइप का मैं प्रिपरेशन करती हूँ, सिर्फ इसके लिए नहीं, किसी भी किरदार के लिए. और वो मुझे बहुत हेल्प करता है, क्योंकि मैं जब स्क्रिप्ट करती हूँ अपनी पहली बार, तो मैं ये सारी चीजें बना लेती हूँ. फिर मैं उस स्ट्रक्चर में खेल सकती हूँ, चाहे फिर वो 40 साल का किरदार हो जब मैं 20 साल की हूँ, और या फिर छोटा किरदार हो, बड़ा किरदार हो, अमीर हो, गरीब हो, गुस्से वाला हो, या करुणा भाव का कैरेक्टर हो. तो जब एक बार वो स्ट्रक्चर डिफाइन हो जाता है और ये पता चल जाता है कि ये इंसान कौन है, तो फिर वो इंसान एक अपने तरीके से खाना बनाएगा या फुटबॉल खेलेगा. वो बंदा डिफाइन करना जरूरी होता है. तो पहले मैं वो किरदार डिफाइन करती हूँ अपने लिए. अच्छा डायरेक्टर होता है तो ब्रीफ दे देता है. आपको देखने को नहीं मिलता, पर जिस तरह से हम दोनों एक दूसरे की बातों पे हंस रहे हैं, या जिस तरह कनीज मुझसे सवाल पूछ के हंस रही हैं, तो आपको एक समझ में आ जाता है कि हम लोगों में एक आत्मीयता है, हम दोस्त हैं. तो अगर एक छोटी सी हंसी से आपको ये पता चल जाता है कि हम दोस्त हैं, तो अगर मैं पूरे कैरेक्टर पे वर्क करके आपको वो एक पेश करूं कुछ सामने, तो वो किरदार कौन है, वो इंसान कौन है, वो किस मिलियू का हिस्सा है, वो आप समझ पाएंगे. तो इसलिए राहुल भाई.
Okay, Richa, I wanted to ask you because it's all about social media. Or एक सवाल ये था that have you ever suffered? No, my question is different. Social media has unfortunately revealed uh, the person inside the artist who we watched in movies. So now I know a director made a movie like that, but personally what he's thinking is revealed on these social media platforms like Twitter. I'm sure you would have also gotten to know of many other sides of the same people of your fraternity.
Yeah.
Considering that, and considering the fact that you have always chosen roles which are extremely different from the league, something that stands out, something that has a character, which I would always remember after the movie. Would you work with directors and artists who, in today's world, are actively, spreading hate on social media of your own fraternity? If they approach you with a role in their movies, would you be comfortable doing that?
They have, and I said no, not now, but like 7, 8 years ago.
I think we should clap on that, that's a stand.
For me, it doesn't matter. It's very, I think, the biggest thing we don't realize is that social media in a thick society will only amplify those sides of the society which is looking to externalize blame for an everyday kind of pain, the drudgery of a middle class existence, where you have to stand in line, things are becoming expensive, your kids are not getting the opportunities that you did, the milk you're getting is not the milk that your mother had, whatever, So it's important to recognize that. And then it's important to understand why people align with power.
Right.
Because someone who would not get access into this room will now sit on a panel and get awards and tell you that you are so and so. And someone with the thing is, for an artist, I think it takes what it says about you is more important. An unhealed person, like in survival mode, trying to fit in somewhere, is likely to make very different choices than someone who knows that this is a path of long-term peace and maybe short-term loss. So if you're okay with your choice, see, the thing is, only a confident person will be okay with these choices. Okay, yaar, dekh lenge na kya hota hai. So it's that, I think. So when people reveal their true selves, then I look their true selves in the eyes and I know who they are. So it doesn't matter really. They also have to live with their choices.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Richa? My question to you is, I did see you taking a part in stand-up comedy. You made a small one entry into that. So, are you going to continue doing that, or do you think the world is a stand-up comedy right now?
I think the thing is, I always think I'm doing comedy, but sometimes my jokes don't land and I almost get arrested. But then now comics all get arrested. Yeah, I'm happy you're laughing.
See, that is our retirement plan. We all land up in the jail and stay happily ever after.
Yeah, but I've been told there's some planetary thing कि मुंह से जो बोल रहे हैं बहुत जल्दी manifest हो जाता है. तो ये आपने बोला है. आप तो इधर रहते हो.
Hello, Richa. My name is Harsha Fukan, and I'm a big fan of your work. I guess I don't know if you'd be able to answer this question, but I was just wondering, like in terms of the content that we have in mainstream Indian movies now. Like we've come a long way since from Amar Akbar Anthony, so to speak. Like the content seems to be like more like muscular nationalism, and at the same time, there's like implicit and sometimes blatant otherizing of the minority community. So do you think that filmmakers who produce such movies, like they have some sort of a pressure from the government, or they just are trying to cash in on the flavor of the month, so to speak?
I really don't know. There are themes that are like, if there's a really hyper nationalistic movie that's been made, that's the thing, Bollywood is so sacred about the work. The morning shift is so sacred. You will be surprised if you actually read the credit list of these nationalistic movies that are otherizing minorities. In your words, when you read the credits, see the director, the producer, the lead actor, their antecedents, their entire production, how many people of what kind work there, you will be quite surprised. So I'm not saying that there's no judgment or I mean, I hear stories of before my time when the film industry was really sort of at the beck and call of other industries or non-defined industries. So I really don't know about. I mean, I feel like there it's both. There might be some people who recognize, like we were just talking about, aligning with power and the benefits of that. There might be people who recognize it and act on it as a strategy. And I think there's the majority of those people is more. And then there's like the other kinds who are just revealing their true selves to us. And that makes me sad. The second variety makes me sad.
I find it very strange if I can just butt in for a minute. Um, but in India, it's like depressingly on the other end of the spectrum. Do you have thoughts on like why? What's going on over there?
First, I want to beat you up. ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ आके कि Hollywood, Bollywood. No, there's no comparison.
अरे I'm not asking you to compare them. I'm saying India में क्यों हो रहा है ऐसे
Because
with our industry?
for all reasons, there is some free press. Free press. What are the 4 pillars of democracy?
What are they? मुझे भी नहीं पता.
Well, you guys, you have, I mean, I'm saying you also because up to आप यहीं की हैं, but judiciary, uh, executive, legislature, and the 4th estate. So primarily with the free judiciary and free press, or at least the diversity of press, not like 3 people only. But by the way, यहाँ पे भी हो जाएगा. But हो ही रहा है, धीरे-धीरे gradually shrinking. But like there's a direct conflict of interest, I feel, and I think it's also like I want you to know that you'll be surprised to find that the crisis of not finding artists is always on the other side. Most people tend to be on this side, even if they can't be so expressive.
I think that's a big part of it, that there's people who are just not engaging a whole lot,
They're not engaging
or
because
they're being superficial for their own, like for
survival.
survival. Yeah.
No, that's a one different category. But I think there's a lot of people who don't engage because they realize that they're feeding the monster of this kind of repeated outrage. And if they understand this outrage industrial complex and they choose not to, like many times I also see over the years with Twitter activity, especially if you see a trend, then you see responses to the trend, then you see the outrage to the trend, like I'm shocked, I'm baffled, I'm heartbroken, oh, why RIP humanity? All those things, it's like one chain. So sometimes when you have the larger picture and you choose not to engage, that's also one way.
We have a couple of Zoom questions.
I have a question. So yeah, hi Richa.
Hi.
My question is about like filmmaking or like, something as a reflection of society. So, do you think commercial success plays a role, especially like if someone wants to tell a new story which is not conventional, or maybe it is not aligning with the power, and is it changing? Like,
Actually, I think currently what's happening is that post-COVID especially, the audiences are kind of in like I don't know, Nikhil is here, he'll also be able to answer this. I'm not a distributor, but I sometimes feel like we're purely speaking in terms of like the destiny of Hindi films. I think we'll have to assess ticket prices and judge them vis-a-vis the footfalls in actual cinema halls. There is a reason why the South, with its slightly protectionist ticketing policies, has been able to have their massive success. I'm not talking about kaisi film chali. I'm just saying film chali. And then what happens is, I mean, think about it. On the one hand, there's inflation. On the other hand, dollar rate 90 kitna hai? Well done. I'll do thank you post later. But you know, and then there's a ticket that there's an Amir Khan film which you've been waiting to watch for 3 years, and then you know it's out and it's $400, and you have 5 people in the household, and then it becomes a cinema experience, and you have to buy popcorn and soda. Average, like 25,000 से ऊपर तो people are saying कि ये तो अमीर हो गया आजकल. So where, who is that person in urban India who can spend $4,000 watching a movie on one weekend, one film? No. So that commercial success and this, right now there's a lot of like audience feels like they're also not understanding that COVID made them into a captive audience. So they had exposure to shows from Sweden and Germany and like Korean shows and amazing films and Oscar films and everything, you know, and then your personal tastes evolve. And then there's this cinema now, and it's kind of like the glut of the older films that weren't able to release versus now. And then, so right now, I think we will take a little bit of time to identify exactly what works. और इसीलिए मैं producer बन गई.
I have a couple of questions on Zoom, and then we can go back to the in-person audience. So the first question to Richa is, I wanted to know more about how much your family has contributed to how you engage with politics online and otherwise. Apart from how your parents and siblings have influenced it, I also wanted to know how your partner has influenced your engagement with politics, given the difference in religion and how it is popularly perceived.
Oh, so my family is very aware. I come from a family of academics. So they're very clued in. They watch the news. They read like 3 or 4 different papers a day, both my mom and dad. But they don't actively engage with it so much. I think our generation got the opportunity to have social media. My mother still writes the op-ed ke niche little letters to the editor. So, you know, that's a different generation, and how they engage with it is very different versus now how we get like a 24/7 chance to sort of express in real time. I don't know how good that, but sometimes it comes in handy. Ditto for my siblings, we all engage with it very differently. We may have similar ideologies, but as you know from the family WhatsApp group dynamic, that there's no monolith called the family, and people feel very differently, even under the same roof. And as for my partner, he is really very sweet and clueless. Doesn't know, like, sometimes I'm like, hey, this election's happening today. And he's like, oh yeah, yes, is our side winning? Really, he had no impact, and I really do not want to have an impact on him and how he perceives reality either. In his own time.
जब बड़ा होगा तब.
Okay, one more quick, I think you addressed this to some extent. South has raised the movie bar with Bahubali, RRR, etc. Whereas, according to this person, Bollywood is still stuck at stereo, old formula, or propaganda films. Why do you think creativity is missing now in Bollywood? This person asks. By the way, big fan of your work and your honest stand on and off the screen, this person says.
Thank you, person. I think, see, uh, what death of creativity, even here, if you look at it, there's like so many sequels and like graphic novels and superheroes, and there is that's why such few films go to like these big festivals and Oscars and win. I don't know if it is, see, raising the bar for me when Kumbalangi Nights comes out in Malayalam cinema, or The Great Indian Kitchen comes out, it raises the bar in a very, very substantial way. And that's the Malayalam industry sort of leading the way. And then you have a small film like Gamak Ghar that is made about a family in the eastern part. These films, I feel they need to be celebrated a lot more. Like All That Breathes, our own Oscar nominated full length docu, which lost to Navalny. So I feel like the bars are continuously raised. And then there is like, it's like food. There's like some gourmet food, and then there's, your regular fast food. So fast food is always accessible, always there. You can eat it. You can get food coma or bloating, but you eat, you eat it. You eat it to celebrate. It's like, so I forgot. What?
The question was, where do you think was the dearth of creativity? And I think you answered that.
I
there
think
is.
there is no dearth of creativity. There is a dearth of distribution. There's a dearth of good films like having access.
Go back to in-person audience.
Hi, Richa. I think you're super cool because you speak your mind and you're so honest, which is very rare now, especially with like celebrities. So I have a follow-up question from what you had asked earlier. It's like a follow-up where I used to think personally that you could be apolitical, but India is now in a situation where you cannot be apolitical and be like, yeah, it's happening. So I don't have an opinion just because of how severe things are getting. But sometimes because celebrities are idols in India, it's hard to see them as humans. Sometimes it just feels like, oh, why are they not speaking up? But some of them speak up and you're just like, she should have been quiet anyway. So I feel like now, like you speak your mind, you're honest, and others also, I might not agree with them, but they still speak. But there are some who are just quiet. So while I think they're human and they get to be quiet, I also think that they have a huge platform which can really make a difference. So
that's the thing see, this is both the good and the bad of social media. We really use Twitter for resources, for help, for oxygen lines and phone calls during the second wave, which was horrible. Beds, medicines, everything. So I feel like that was the real like golden period of Twitter. But think about it otherwise, all kind of moralities just outsourced. Like previously, who was a person of good character? Somebody who acted like a good person, somebody who helped others, or who was okay to share some of their wealth or their knowledge, share their time towards a cause. Now it's easy. Now it's like just one click. So then, suppose you said death to the dictator, and it's called collectivism actually. Suppose you said it. Now you're like, "Mera to ho gaya. Ab tu bol." But we are just continuously passing the thing, and again, it's maybe people from a different generation who think this is pointless. Maybe an ethical hacker who knows, oh, you're really just exposing yourself and falling on one side of the algorithm. Now you'll be blind. Now the algorithm will only make you watch 180 degrees, and you will be in this echo chamber and you will not know that side. Hence, if something genuine is going on that side, you have no objectivity, and you don't have any objectivity in your own field of vision about what's actually being done. So I Again, forgot the question. But basically, yeah, sometimes people choose not to sit with it because they're just smart. And we are emotional fools.
Hi, my question was that extending what was asked earlier, that the positive forces out there tend to remain more silent, they're more dignified in their approach. And it seems like the negative forces on social media seem to be the main voice out there. And they are like, it seems like they are the ones who are having a party, and the other are like round the corner, just, making meek noises out there, and, just uh, saying. And so when, in fact, I'll give you an example. When Pathan was to release, we were managing the SRK Universe USA social media.
Oh, wow. How
So our aim was to create an environment of positivity, because there was so much negativity at that point of time. So our aim was to create an environment of negativity, to create that environment where there's celebration, and it really worked. We could get people who were not even SRK fans, we could get them to the theater because everyone wanted to be part of the party. So I think more than, looking at the negative, the negativity out there, I think the positivity needs to really, get highlighted more, so that people are attracted. I think that would have more attraction any day. Don't you think so?
I actually agree with you. In the second wave, I'd started a little social media initiative called Kindry, where we were just looking at stories of everyday heroes. Somebody who figured out how to make an app for medicines to be distributed faster, or a lactating mother choosing to breastfeed, or babies who'd lost their parents to COVID. So I worked on that pretty energetically, and I could do with some help, guys. If any of your students or whatever you'd like, get in touch and let me know, give me ideas for it in the future. But I really do think that works. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. But the thing is, negative forces are always Chavanni Athanni Chap. So you can't compete with that. It's okay. They're not real. Yeah. Yeah. Do your thing, and it will not matter.
Hi, Richa.
Hi.
I'm Rishi, and I had a question. So, with like 100 or something followers on Twitter, I can't relate to this, but would you, do you consider Twitter to be sort of a space where, you are not anonymous and you're putting forward your thoughts, but you're in a conversation with people who are hiding behind anonymity, and that makes this sort of an unfair place to have discussion often?
Yeah. Yeah. Or I could also make a. Some people do that. They graph निकालने के लिए they make like a profile, and that it is unfair. But like in the future, I feel a couple of years only, all these platforms will last for precisely years. It's already happening. So I think it's gonna change, but I don't engage with bots anymore. I have very good bot detection system. I have blocked like 20,000 people.
Hi. So my question is, how do you look at the ecology of social media branding as part of an actor's work today? So to what extent does an actor need to have a team of people? To what extent do you need lawyers? And to what extent do you use some of these things?
Lawyers, yeah. Lawyers has been a good relationship in the last couple of 2-3 years. But social media, I feel like it's especially for Instagram, a lot of people, I think the pressure to create content, as they say, is a lot. So you just have to identify what you want to do. Because in the end, you're just producing things for the platform, for more people to keep staying there and watch you like zombies for 5 seconds or 7 seconds, or I don't know what the global attention span now is, like 0.3 seconds or whatever. I think this will be a big problem in the future, but um, there is a need now to keep posting regularly. Yeah, there is a need. But also, I want to say that sometimes it's great. Sometimes, like the press says something about me, like which is untrue. Then I don't have to go through a middleman. I can just say this is what it is. This is what happened, and I have access like that.
Hi, Richa. I'm a big fan of Nagma here,
Oh, hey.
right in the front. I'm interested in the conversation around nationalism and cinema and about, wanting to sing the national anthem or banning saffron colored bikinis and all of that. So how does it look like in the actor front for state policing of the films, and how does that really reflect on the other end?
I think some amount of censorship was always there in India, especially when it came to like historical things or political things, or uh, like something that we all have shared memory of, like bomb blast or a terrorist attack or whatever. So I think there has always been some amount of censorship, even though I don't, we are the only ones who have a certification board. The CBFC is a certification board. Uh, but now I'm a producer. तो जब मेरा सेंसर हो जाएगा तब मैं आपके सवाल का जवाब दूंगी. Really, there's always been a little bit of censorship, but now it's taken a different kind of tone. Yeah. But also now more and more I have started to realize, especially in 2021, it became pretty evident. 2020, it became very evident that like a captive audience and very salacious Bollywood gossip was kind of giving everyone TRP. And then you started to pull back and realize, oh, these guys need us, to play clips of us and keep like this sort of infotainment kind of situation happening every night.
Hi, Richa,
Hi.
over here.
Oh, hey.
Uh, so you said that, you have blocked 20,000 people on social media, uh,
No, just on Twitter.
on Twitter. There may be more on other platforms. As a public person, you definitely get trolled a lot. People attack you. There's a lot of hate speech and so on. You seems like you have developed a thick skin against that right now. But going back a few years when you probably started on social media, how was your mentality then in terms of were you affected when people trolled you, for example? And if so, what did you do? Because most of the people in the room are probably in that stage rather than at the stage where where they have developed that thick skin.
I want to say that like the trolling can be pretty even and equally distributed from both sides of the spectrum. And so there's one side that you expect will troll you. So you tend to develop thick skin against that. But then on the other side, there's when your own people who sort of agree with you, they find something that or something is blown out of proportion, and that has also happened to me. I think I tend to be hurt a lot more by that than this other thing. You understand what I mean? Because it also the other thing about social media, which we all must actually guard against, is it forces people into binaries. So in a very strange way, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm more affected when my binary is upset as opposed to the people who I expect will be like the deplorables. So, kya kahe? So I guess your reaction depends on who's doing the trolling, but then you realize a troll is a troll. A lot of people just like join in for a little while. It's like, and they have some little fun, and then they go and. Hate is interesting. Hate is, I mean, so when I thought I'll do this project where I'll take pictures of all the trolls, like I'll print a PP, and just like, their profile photo, I'll make a little collage. And when you do that, change, man, like you don't really get so affected because you're like, yeah, बेचारा ये जिंदगी से खुश नहीं है. Not really, unless sometimes I'm like trying not to read, and actively people are like, "Are you okay?" And then they send you one. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Muted comments a long time ago. It vastly improves your Twitter experience if you only speak to who you want to speak to or people who follow you.
What kind of trolling is kind of ideology is not affected by like right wing or left wing ideology? Where are they meeting? Gender?
Of course, sexism unites everyone. Like totally united in sexism. वो तो women also join in. There's a lady who holds like she runs a thing with men who are victims, and she's wow.
Victims of what?
Victims of bhai wo to universe hai, I'll show you thing. MRA.
Honey, like what has she ever said? What her like, what
Yeah.
kind of help she needs? She feels these people need.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh really?
There's only one.
No, I'm sure there's more.
There must be, yeah.
Internalized misogyny. I have a question,
Please,
Richa.
yeah.
Recently, a very important movie was made on the migrant crisis during the COVID times, and there has been a lot of censure and censorship done on that movie. Like you remove this point, and you remove this visual from the movie, and so on and so forth. The movie was important. There was a lot of talk around the movie as well. However, the promotions of the movie, the way the movie was promoted by the team, by the actors, by the entire, it did not really, it did not really match the seriousness of the topic, which for me personally, it created a sense of performativity out of the treatment of the topic of the migrant crisis. So now that you are a producer, if you ever have a movie like that, if you make a movie which I'm sure will come out from the emotional fools that we are, from the emotion that you feel about a certain issue, would you how important do you think promotion in the way it is promoted, in the way movies are promoted today, how important do you think the same line of promotion will be? Would you do it, or would you just trust the audience to maybe make an intelligent decision as far as the movie is concerned?
So first, I can't comment on the film because I haven't seen it. Second, the treatment of the film could be an aesthetic choice of the filmmaker. I feel like that's his personal aesthetic. Like for instance, the choice to have black and white, or those are creative choices that they may work, they may not work. We don't know also, because if you're saying there's been censorship, what it would have been versus what we saw. So that's that. But yeah, I think I will be if I have to make a film like that, I don't know how they promoted it. I didn't keep an eye on it, but I guess See, in Bollywood, I feel like the structures only come quite like with the corporates, with like managers, agents, all that is also very recent, maybe 10, 15 years old. Before that, people had secretaries. Some people still have secretaries, the older actors, and they have the same like diary in which they write notes. Now, like my Google Calendar is synced on 4 different emails, so that change has happened. I feel like once we move to slightly more, for instance, say global content, we figure out strategies of how a film or a play or a series should be marketed. Uh, it should be dictated by the product only, actually. Yeah. Otherwise, but what I'm trying to say is that we'll get there. The way it's moving in terms of how certain professionalism, we will get there.
So Richa, I just wanted to ask that once you make a decision as an actor to put to put what you think out there publicly, with no anonymity associated with you, like everyone knows who you are, and you put, you don't. How important do you think as an actor is calculating the cost of how it's affecting your career? Do you ever take that into account, that okay, if I say this, then maybe my next movie is going to be boycotted by a certain group of people? How and as an actor, once you grow more and more in your career, how important do you think it's important it is for actors to calculate that cost and like pick whether you want to put out what you really think out in the world?
Honestly, in the past, I didn't think it mattered what I said at all. So I used to say whatever I wanted to, especially with regard to films. I didn't think that, anyone was paying any attention. But recently, like whatever happened, I feel like there's a filmmaker who's making something after 4 years. He's worked on the script for 2 years. He took 2 years to make it. For the past 6 months, the film is in edit. So now I'm very wary, because all these friends of mine, giving half a decade to a film and then some random 3 words from my mouth are going to jeopardize their life, then I don't want to do it anymore. I guess, yeah, that's only been the only realization. But it's recent, I won't lie, because I genuinely didn't think that anyone cared or it mattered. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, I have a question. Actually, I have two. So you made an observation earlier, which I found very interesting about, the average cost of going to a movie, and, for a Indian family, it has gone really high. So where do you think this is going as a producer? Do you think theaters will survive? Because, there's a Pathan that comes and does a lot of business, but otherwise, movies aren't doing all that well. So doesn't that affect the whole economics of the theater business? That is my number one question. The second question is that as a producer, actor with such independent views and, sometimes seem to be anti-government views, have you faced some sort of trouble within the industry, directly, indirectly?
Okay, so I'll answer the first question, then I'll answer the second. The first question, obviously, when there is like financial loss in the industry, again, the person you're sitting next to will be able to answer this much better than I. Nikhil. But when there's a hit film and a big studio makes money, they're able to fund a whole bunch of smaller films with newer independent actors. So when a film does well, it benefits the whole industry. And when a film does poorly, again, everybody suffers. So even this whole thing of people within the industry starting to sort of call out, all of those things impact the same little pool of filmmaking between Bandra and Goregaon. That's it. Utna hi hai. So I feel like that really, it's sometimes, can be very bhasmasur like this kind of activity. And second, guys, I'll answer this question. Okay, then nobody rephrase this and ask it to me in a new way. Please, when I get trolled, or when I'm outspoken, does it affect my career? No. ठीक है? No. आप दोबारा मत पूछो अलग-अलग तरीके से. I feel like 3-4 times it's happened. But no, it has not so far. I'm very grateful that it hasn't. I hope it doesn't. And I hope that we can, at least in the things we produce, that we can continue to say things, because I met a filmmaker recently. They were like, why are you wasting your breath on Twitter? You know, films are such refined communication. Use your voice to make what you want to make actually. So I'm going to stick with that. Yeah.
We have one question from Zoom. Hardik asks, social media influencers are starting to land supporting roles in films since it helps promote films on social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube, where they have an organic presence. Are the number of followers a factor on whether an actor or actress would be cast in a film or a show? Do you think it will be a factor in the future?
I think it is a factor already. I think some actors, I think Vikrant Masi had spoken about it once, that people with more Instagram followers or YouTube followers or vloggers or whatever getting cast faster. So I think that it has been a factor. Again, I've been very oblivious, but I'm sure it is a factor. However, sometimes just casting an influencer because they have a great social media, this thing, and not taking into account actual either acting capability or the ability to like, but then, you know, those films also, what kind of film is it? And hence, does it even matter? So it's that, but it's not always translated into audience love or box office.
Influencers, you said they're not necessarily good actors.
I'm not saying they're necessarily not good actors. I'm just saying that when I say I chose to be an actor, you know, I did theater for a certain number of months or years. I went and did some workshops. I learned some treatises. I went to different places. I worked on my voice, my body. If those things matter to the filmmaker in casting, then all good. If it doesn't matter to the film itself, and the like somebody who's displaying like splendid skills as a sketch comic, suppose on their Instagram, and they're cast into a comedy film, why not? No? Like it will depend on the kind of film you're making or show or whatever. कोई सवाल आपका रॉफी जी? हाँ, मिर्जापुर 3 कब आ रहा है?
Okay, the question is Mirzapur 3, when is it releasing?
थैंक यू. मिर्जापुर 3 बहुत जल्द आएगा. गुड्डू भैया शूटिंग खत्म करके अब अपने बाल वापस लंबे कर रहे हैं.
Hi, Richa.
Yeah.
So I had a question. Now that you've worn the hat of an actor as well as a producer, do you think your relationship or the way you interact with films has changed? Is there more freedom, or it has been curtailed, or has there been a trade-off in some way in how you affect the film at the end?
No, but I mean, part of me was frustrated in the past when like I worked really hard on a film, and for some reason either it got stalled or didn't get the proper kind of marketing or promotional push or release. I don't know how much of that will change. I hope that changes now. If I produce some stuff that I also intend to act in, then I have more control over it. So I mean, that's one of the big reasons for me to do it. But also like at some stage, like कभी-कभी ना मुझे set पे ऐसे dissociative personality disorder हो रहा था. That I was wearing some like funky, weird like bird costume, but I was thinking other things in my head, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? So I didn't want to be in films like that that you know, then you also have to go and lie कि नहीं बहुत अच्छी film है. तो हाँ बहुत, we were like a family. So I just thought I'll, you know, maybe instead of doing work just to do work as an actor, and like, you know, you have to be visible and out of sight, out of mind, all that. Of course, there's going to be a mix in your bag of like in your filmography. I have some real gems, but there's, you know, there's if you can start producing, then you feel like the scripts that really matter to me, I'll get behind them in all seriousness with all my weight. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sidra.
Yeah, hi Richa.
Hi.
So like I've observed that in the Bollywood there's a stereotypical kind of a role that's given to Muslims. And I mean one of the roles that I like was probably like Gully Boy Alia Bhatt, like it was such a dynamic role that she played as a Muslim girl. And I wonder if like what is stopping like that kind of representation of Muslim women in the industry or even like Muslim men, the way they are portrayed.
You know where we like, so if you look at, actually Kuhu studies all this. He'll be able to answer this much better. But I'm saying that we've moved from a place like in the post-independent era to like, there was a certain left of center kind of cinema, which was secular, focused on scientific values. Then we had like this Mera Gaon, Mera Desh, which was like from rural to urban India, the movement of people, then struggling coming into the big city, trying to find your feet in it, and then sort of your Ramaya, Vastavaya morality, and Gaon is pure, and Share is, women smoke and all. Then we moved to the Muslim social with the, Mere Mehboob and Pakiza. So for me, it's quite a jarring like journey from like the 60s, 70s, even early 80s to where we are now. I think it's quite deliberate, but I think it'll change. I think it's deliberate, but it'll change. I think it's kind of also cyclical, but here in entertainment, the cycle will run much faster than in society, I feel.
Hi, Richa.
Hi.
I would just want to preface my question by saying that we are here in the audience of a small group of academics. And so we also kind of think about, some of these problems of social media, and you talked about echo chambers, algorithms. And so it's a real privilege to hear from celebrities and, influencers about the problems they are facing, but also like we feel the onus that we have to do something about it. So, if you were to have a fireside chat with, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk and complain about Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, what would be some of the things you would want them to fix?
Are you going to laugh at them also?
Like you laughed at me.
No, I doubt I'll ever have a fireside chat with any one of them. But yeah, I mean, first I'll give them a big hug. There's a void there. So then we'll chat. I guess if like, you just have to remind people of the true legacy of what they're doing and how it will outlive them for sure. I don't know how old these people are or how long they intend to be alive and the means with which they can. But just remind them of the kind of legacy they leave behind in terms of a very, very divided society. Like we're all here, but there was a big documentary that came out on Netflix, which seemed to state the obvious. And it was about the election in this country and about the number of data points per individual that could be accessed by political parties or this, social media complex. And sort of again, we are coming back and focusing on the, like, I find all these to be symptoms, like trolling and all to be symptoms of a much deeper, insidious kind of disease. So I hope that we can, as a society, take a look back and see. Maybe not, I think it'll happen also with people who've had babies during COVID and limited human interactions, and how like a toddler now interacts with technology. How in, I don't know if you guys know, Bombay, they're starting to teach kids who are like 3 or 4 coding. यहाँ पे है या नहीं पता नहीं मुझे, but like in Bombay it's starting. It's a big thing, I think.
One question from Zoom. Why don't we see people from marginalized castes in the film industry? Even in writing, it represents a privileged few from dominant castes, and it matters whose stories are being told and who's telling those stories. And I think this person is referring specifically to the Hindi film industry.
I think that both things. First, opportunity, the obstruction to that opportunity. You know, even if you're struggling and you're upper caste and English medium educated, that itself has created a big distinction between the next person wanting to act and you. Right? I can come from a city like Delhi, learn how to groom myself, read a couple of fashion magazines, have the money to buy that, to present myself in a certain way, communicate better. And then hence I have that access and that privilege versus someone uh, from say, and the other thing is that a lot of people, because they sense the stigma already, don't want to out themselves. And then you actually don't know. But I really think that this representation is actually perhaps more urgent than even gender, because in the last 10 years, I see a lot of women in the film industry in terms of like the AD department, the DP, the art, in every other department. But we've sort of worked on the gender bit, but we really have to work on the cast bit. Like sometimes entire shows are written and there's not one person in the writer's room from a DBA background.
Thank you. We have only 5 minutes, so one question from Munmun.
Hi, Richa. Thank you for joining us today. I'm a big fan of your work. I love how your work tends to be so socially relevant and socially sensitive. Masan left a very big impression in my life. So thank you for that. My question is actually pretty short. I wanted to hear from you if you think cinema, and I am talking of cinema as an institution here, do you think cinema has a social and moral responsibility? Or is it just a source or a platform to entertain people? And if there is a social and moral responsibility, how do we decide what that is and who has the power to do so?
I don't think that this question will ever be answered or we'll arrive at a conclusion at all. Because yes, cinema ought to have a moral and social responsibility, but a film is also just an auteur's vision to tell a story. It can be political, it can also be abstract, it can be surreal, it can be like a painting, it can be like poetry, it can be completely random, like films often are, and that could evoke something in the viewer, or it could be, you know, because also like morality in society keeps changing. The things that we did that were okay with our parents, I'm surprised when we were kids and my mom was a child, they were listening to a song which we've all heard. Hum kale hai to kya hua dil wale hai. Can anybody make that song today? And like that's legit blackface in it with like a dancer. And so I feel like we'll keep questioning and we'll have to keep refining ourselves and our own understanding. I'm really glad things like representation are even being discussed. Although I want to tell you, please, ये बहुत अच्छा लगता है ऐसे academic ऐसे graphic लगा के आग का कुछ बदलने मतलब ये in a Bollywood casting room, how projects are packaged, sold, released, ये who are you? Like ऐसा question आएगा. So it's very, very difficult to like even push the needle this much is very hard because it's another world where a Friday is very different and a Monday is very different. It's like it's something else. So I feel like with more corporate interference with global giants like Netflix and Amazon and Disney making their way to India and sort of these boardrooms and the like HR policies and all, there will be like an improvement and a shift. But yeah, like, I don't know, your question was about social responsibility, moral responsibility, and I really don't know if we are supposed to be like, that's a PSA sometimes. Cinema can be anything.
All right, so we are out of time. Thank you so much, Richa, and for everyone for having great questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you to Kuhu for being a very jovial and entertaining person and recounting your stories together. So,
That's how I am with my students also.
all right. So the folks who are here and speakers, we're going to go around and take a look at Festifools, which is an Ann Arbor festival, and then we'll do the speakers dinner afterwards. The students who have posters or papers are also part of the speaker dinner. So, thank you.